welcome to another episode of Your Country, Your Government, Your Development. Joining us today is Minister of Public Health, Dr. George Norton, and today we will be discussing diabetic care. Thank you for your time, Minister.
Thank you very much.
November 14 was World Diabetes Day. Can you give us a status report of the illness locally?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on this program, and particularly because of November the 4th being World Diabetic Day on the theme of protecting our right to health. Now, diabetes on the whole falls onto that category of what we will refer to as lifestyle disease. And it is something that used to, before the advent of insulin, practically was a killer, okay? Now persons are living, I don't want to say complete their life, but for a very extended period of time, fairly healthy because of the lifestyle they have adopted. And it has to do, first of all, or very importantly, with diet. It is important for me to use this opportunity to say that really and truly the human being is in no need to add nor salt nor sugar to their food. And even more important is to let us in Guyana know that in Barbados there's a tax on sugar. There's a tax on sugar. The unfortunate thing, of course, that would have been, let's say, promoted or advocated for by the health sector, but they're not getting that tax over to themselves. It goes into the general coffer. The point is, we need to think seriously about the type of food we eat. And us in Guyana, where we're in a tropical country, we have large expanse of land and so on, should be moving towards that consumption of fresh green vegetables and fruits. Okay? Only recently, PAHO WHO had a bulletin on what is referred to as these ultra-processed foods. And I said it before, and I'm going to repeat it, that it hurts when you see a parent putting in one of those little plastic package of snacks into the lunch kit of their children. We should make every effort to get away from that, okay? Because if it's not excess salt, it's excess sugar, and that can only affect us.
Okay. Since diabetes and other non-communicable diseases are becoming a burden to governments, what is the ministry's plan to tackle this illness?
First of all, of course, we've changed now to public health, which I think it's really appropriate because it is not so much medication treating sicknesses. It is more of lifestyle, okay? And our effort, it might not be the coalition's effort, it might be more international, but we certainly wouldn't be left back, where we're trying to create what is more of an active lifestyle, okay? We have what is known as this wellness warrior movement that while it might have been, let's say, been brought on board by the previous government, we hope to follow in that line, and as I said, it is something that is happening international. We want to see people being more active. And this goes right across the age divide, from as young as ever to as old as you could do. Here in Guyana, and it's amazing because I have a little obsession about physical exercise, and I used to run almost every day and for long hours. We have the ideal conditions here. There's nothing like a afternoon run on the seawall or around the park with that bright sunshine and, clean air and so on. But how many of us do it? And then when you go to the European countries or even to the United States, persons have to be wrapped up with, in order to exercise in that snow, that cold climate, and all hours, all hours you see them doing it. We've got to start doing so. We've got to start taking that kind of approach to life. And it pays off in the end. In France, for instance, people are noted, or the French women are noted for, and I'm very, very sensitive to what I'm saying because I don't want to offend anybody. They were noted for not being overweight. And one of the reasons they claim is that they walk a lot. Their parking lots are placed deliberately a far distance from their offices so that they would have to walk. Okay? What you find is the contrary happening in Guyana. When persons come to work, they come to work with high heels, the young ladies. And then when they reach in the office, they slip into something what they might deem as comfortable. In the developed countries, it's the contrary. They walk with their sneakers to work, or they jog, because you see them dragging their bag, and that's when they reach in the office where they practically have hardly anywhere to walk, that's when they put on the fancy heels and so on, okay? Those are some of the things that we've got to start changing and start getting involved in. I always, think that apart from sports and running and so on, I think that dancing does something to the soul. And I've been to China and I've seen in many areas, the older folks would get together and they'd dance in the afternoon. Probably they're retired and so on, but they'd dance in a group. Well, I guess if we should do that here in Guyana, people would want to know if we, something is wrong with us. But those are some of the things we should do. I remember at one stage where efforts were made to get groups together to do physical exercise in the afternoon with a rhythm, and we've got to start doing things like that. And then we will avoid having to use the medications to keep our sugar level down.
In terms of ensuring the necessary facilities where persons can go and access food care and so on, what is happening in that area? Even, let's say, persons in the hinterland, can they get these type of care?
Diabetic foot care has been around for some time. It's catching on more and more. It was not always there. And many a persons lost part of their legs, if not completely, from diabetes. With the diabetic foot care clinic that is available in the different health centers, it's definitely a step in the right direction. I would advise all persons to visit those centers, and we will make every effort to have it as much as possible in the different centers, particularly in areas that we know you have a high incidence of or prevalence of diabetes. Let them visit these areas, let them get the correct treatment, and avoid the accidents that can cause by diabetes. I mean, simple things like the care of your toenails. We have a tendency of not even looking at our toenails after a certain age. We should, because that can cause serious damage to the whole toe, if not the extremity as a whole. But it's something that we should make every effort to have available and have it functioning with properly trained persons. This is what we need to do. Properly trained nurse to have the medical supplies available so that persons can have a proper foot care done.
What do you project will be the situation in another, let's say, 5 years in terms of persons with diabetes in Guyana?
I think it will get worse. I think it will get worse, simply because when you go into the supermarkets now, when you see what is happening on the streets, we're going for the carbonated beverages, we're going for the snacks as I talked to you about. And, you know, we really don't see that much activity. Persons are definitely increasing in size. You know, you see somebody who you know as a beauty queen. Only recently, somebody introduced themselves to me, and I remember their name because they were a two-time contestant in Miss whatever it does, Guyana World or Universe, whatever it is. And I had to question, you mean the beauty queen? And she said, yes. Now, there was no need for that person to be in that condition. All you had to do is concentrate on your diet, you know, do some exercise, and you will be surprised to know how you maintain yourself, you know. And I can see it unless we really go along the line of education, and that's why I like public health, because public health goes hand in hand with education, and we start sending the message out there, using the billboards, using the television, using the whatever media we have, and start working on our population, we will certainly end up bad. We wouldn't do well. We wouldn't do well at all. Especially since, you know, gone are the days when physical education was a main part of the school curriculum. You know, people are losing the interest. Next week, I think, might be the National School Sports. How many persons are talking about it? You know, how many persons are interested in it? In Jamaica, on the other hand, already persons would have been flocking that track that they use there in Jamaica. You know, we certainly are far away from that. You know. So I think if we don't change our lifestyle, if we don't start paying more keen attention to education, we can end up worse than we are at the moment.
On that note, Minister, what advice as a medical doctor would you give to persons who are afflicted with this disease and also to those persons to ensure prevention?
Well, I have a friend who is that diabetic, but he is fit as a fiddle. I can tell you that. He, of course, is advancing in age, but the fact that he knows that he's a diabetic, he exercises every day. My advice to my fellow Guyanese is to exercise. You don't need to, don't follow me. Don't follow me. You don't need to do more than probably 15 to 20 minutes a day, okay? And it could be just walking up your steps or walking, it could be right at your home, okay? It could be walking from your office to where you catch the bus to go home rather than catching a bus to catch another bus, you know? And of course, your diet. I'll tell you something about eating. Our habits, you know, we should pay attention to it. The slower we eat is the less we eat. The faster we become satisfied, the slower we eat, okay? So you find that we must take these things into consideration. Just think about, well, I should supposed to be chewing my food 32 times before I swallow. Who does that? By the time you reach 20, you forget that it's what you're counting and you swallow out everything already. Those are the little things that you have to take into consideration. Don't go beyond, meaning that, you know, don't overeat. Stay away from the sweet foods. Everybody's got a sweet tooth, so to speak. The fudges, the ice creams, the chocolates, you know. A bunch of roses and a dozen chocolates, keep to the roses, forget about the chocolates. And that's my advice to the young men and the young ladies too, okay? So you also have to take into consideration your family history. Because even though there is no one in the family that you know is a diabetic, does not necessarily mean you are not. We basically, we're from the country, active, growing up, and we thought we had no diabetic in our family, except when my sister came down with it. And she died as a result of it. Yeah. But nobody else has it. So it is always good to do a fasting blood sugar, random blood sugar, if no one is in it. But if somebody is, then you have to do it more than once and do it regular. Okay? Take the wellness approach. The wellness approach is one where you're striving to maintain well. Okay? And it's not our culture, but it's a culture that we should try to develop, where we take out insurance, health insurance, and we go and we take our regular checks. You know, it must not only be a mouth. Okay? And fortunately for the young ladies, I see they're now going and looking after their toenails and their nails and so on. Excellent. That's the way to go.
There are other chronic illnesses that is affecting our Guyanese population. Can you tell us more about this?
Hypertension. Hypertension is a killer. Hypertension, once again, is that which can be controlled by diet. You know, if we should just listen to the doctor and hear what it is that we should not use, we will live a healthy life. Once you start getting that high blood pressure, it just change your whole lifestyle altogether. I am worried about the high maternal mortality rate that we have in this country, and I will keep talking about it. I will not hide it. You know, I am not pointing fingers. I'm saying that we need to get it down at all costs. One of the causes of maternal deaths is the preeclampsia and the eclampsia. That is, that high blood pressure that you get during pregnancy, which can lead to fitting and of course to complications. Okay, because many times we have to, in order to save you, rush you into those cesarean section, which of course is high risk in any country. All right, so that is one of the problems we have to take into consideration, along with diabetes, or high blood pressure. And of course, the cholesterol is now coming in, it's creeping in. You know, everybody's becoming more conscious of the level of the cholesterol and so on. But then there is something that we tend to ignore: obesity. Okay, obesity. You know, the thing about obesity is there's hardly any one overweight person in a family. If you see a family where there is where someone is overweight, you look around, all would be overweight. Even the little pussycat in the home would be overweight. So it means it's the style, the lifestyle. Okay? They either cook too much, or they cook the wrong type of food, and they allow themselves to increase in weight. That is some of the things we need to work on here in Guyana.
Last question, Minister. How does non-communicable diseases affect our resources, our human resources generally?
It certainly does. First of all, you know, let's go to cholesterol. I didn't speak too much about it. We have treatment for it, but those statins that we use are expensive medication. They're expensive, I can tell you that. Okay, in order for you to use it and to keep yourself under control, the government has to spend so much money in that. Likewise, high blood pressure, you literally have to be on it. But you know for a fact that if you turn up today and your sugar is high or your blood pressure is high, you can't work. So you're not producing. Okay, you're not producing. So it's affecting the country. It's affecting the economy of the country. Apart from the fact that we've got to now, instead of taking money to build a school, we have to take money to build a hospital, or to buy medication, or to buy the equipment that we need, that we could have spent in other areas. And it definitely affects the country. You know, the wealth of the health of a nation is the wealth of a nation. There's no doubt about that. If you're healthy, if your nation is healthy, then you can consider yourself being wealthy in the sense that you don't have to spend so much money in the other areas. And of course, your production. You know, you can go to work and you can produce more. And it does not necessarily mean physical. I can tell you this. Many a times I'm in sympathy with the doctors. The doctors get burned out because they're working there for hours, you know, and sometimes the nurses as well. I, as a Minister of Public Health, I'm hearing complaints every day about how the nurses treat people and the doctors treat, but sometimes they get burned out because they might be suffering from some one of these diseases, which makes them not as efficient as they should be. Okay, so it affects everybody, even in the medical profession.
Okay, Minister, thank you for your time. Thank you. This has been another episode of your Country About Media Development. In this week's edition, we had Minister of Public Health, Dr. George Norton, and we discussed diabetic care and what is being done to tackle this issue. Until next time, thank you.